What's going on YouTube? Today, something different. I'm going to do a bit of a tuning video for anyone out there who needs tips on how to tune a half-decent A-class car on Forza 6. Now I know there's a lot of this already out there on the YouTube spectrum where people are trying to teach people what to do, and I've seen some of it and some of it I don't really agree with. I think some of it's kind of, I don't know, it wouldn't work for me. So with that being said, there are clearly different ways and different styles of tuning that work for different people. So here's mine. I hope you learned something from it. If you've got any questions, please do leave them in the comments section. But first of all, the first job is to find a car to tune. Now, as I say, I'm going to tune for A class. That's the class that I usually drive in. Let's choose something, I don't know, let's choose Mazda RX7. That's completely standard right now. This was a car that was very easily tunable on Forza 5, and you could make it into a real lobby monster. So first of all, upgrades. Right, the first place to go for me for this car would be the engines. I personally, going from Forza 5, where this 5.7 litre V8 was totally overpowered in terms of you could just put it in anything that was allowing, obviously, and you just make the car into a monster as long as you could put decent handling on it. So that's what I'm going to do with this. So let's put that in. Next thing, the centrifugal supercharger, because you can get that for pretty much very little cost of your points. It does quite a lot to the power you're going to get. Now, standard here, I always put these things on because these are all settings that you will later want to be customizing in the tuning section. Anti-roll bars, brakes, suspension. Take all the weight out. What will that leave us at? 2,626. It's an averagely weighted car for this class, really. Do we put the roll cage in? I'm not sure yet. I may put that in at some point. I'm not sure yet. We'll continue with different areas. Tyres. What have we got in terms of width on the rear? We can get to 305. That's pretty good. Let's see what compound we can put on first. I found on this game that race tyres are somewhat unnecessary on most cars in this class. It's just too much. You just don't need that amount of grip, which is the total opposite to Forza 5, really. Because Forza 5, most cars I found myself putting race tyres on because it seemed like you could get away with it. But with the classes being nerfed to a certain extent, and by that I mean that a lot of cars now, which you could remain in A class, like a lot more powerful ones, like a lot of the Lamborghinis, some of the Ferraris, they've all been uprated now, so they're more or less S-class cars. So with that, I think they've actually rated the tyres as well. I don't think that it's really worth putting race tyres on there because it buffs the rating too much and it leaves you short of performance. So I'm going to stick with sport tyres, I think. And as I say, tyre width on the rear I would like... We'll go with the widest, and I may adjust it later on. On the front, what have we got? We've got 225s. I prefer a 235. That seems to be a good width for me. I'm not too bothered about the fronts too much. Now on this game as well, I've been putting the heaviest wheels on, just to give me some extra points that I can put on during the engine tuning stage. Can we put a sports gearbox on, or raise it by 10? But we kind of need it with this engine. A customizable gearbox, sorry, is an absolute must with this engine, because you have to realign the gearbox ratio to get the best out of it. Right, we want a diff. Always put a diff on. Anyone who doesn't, I don't know why you wouldn't. Okay, so we've got some body kit we can put on as well. Probably just going to go with the handling package on the front. Same on the rear. Yeah, that gets the handle up to 5.7. That's perfect. What are we looking at here? Okay, this is just decorative stuff. And it adds a needless point, so we'll leave that off. Okay, this pretty much comes for free. It adds £4 in weight, that's nothing really. Yeah, sure, let's put that one on. Why not? And that loses the weight we just added, but somehow gains a point. We'll leave that for now. It's just decorative, really. Right now, engine. Okay, first thing to do, see how big we can put the supercharger. Right. We can max out the supercharger, which is what I tend to do with this one. You don't have to do that. There's different ways of doing it. This is just the parts bit. You know, this part you can kind of customize and play around with yourself to what you find the best results to be. Now that makes it 701. Let's go ahead and put that on. Also, sometimes you can get this on for free to get a little bit more power. The oil and cooling. Adds a bit of weight, but it does give you a slight performance increase. Let's go ahead and put it on. Right, now, let's get this little bit of something. Let's go ahead and make the wheels a little bit bigger to get this point back. There we go. This doesn't have as much of an effect as you'd think it would on the handling. I don't think it has much of an effect at all. Probably leave the front ones where they are. Right, now becomes the interesting part. Now, we have numbers to note down at this point. Numbers to note down to set your spring rates. That's the first thing we're going to do. Obviously, the weight of the car. So the weight of the car is 2,643 pounds, and the weight distribution is 53% to the front. Now, we have an equation to sort this out, and the equation is thus. Let's get our calculator up. Right. So 2,000. I'll click on it. There we go. 2,643 times 0.53, that's your weight distribution, and divide that by 2 equals 700, well, 700.4 essentially. You divide it by 2 because obviously you have 2 wheels. Two wheels on the front, 2 wheels on the back, obviously. Right, so our weights, I usually set these to 28. But you can play around with that. You ideally want to be around 32 psi when your tyres are fully. Let's do all this later. When your tyres are fully warmed up. So we're going to go from 583 to 700. That's as close as we can get. Right now, same for the rear. So let's go back. $2,643 again. 2,643 times 0.47 because that's the remaining weight on the car that's going to the rear, and divide that again by 2 equals 621.1. So this one's already pretty close. 621.1. There we go, spot on. Right, at this point, I always have my ride height really low. I go down all the way to the bottom and just lift it up by 1. My rebound stiffness I'm going to play with as I'm tuning it. My bump stiffness, I don't know why, but on every car I always put it to 2. That's a habit from Forza 5. The bump stiffness is basically when you go over a bump, it's how quick your or how sensitive your wheels will be, your suspension will be as you go over the bump, and the rebound is how quickly it rebounds back to the ground and connects with the ground again. For those who didn't know, it explains it all. Explains it all over here for you, but you know, on the right hand side. It's just over there. Downforce, not too bothered with that at the minute. My brakes, I've found on Forza, my brakes so far, that what I like is that I like it 48% to the rear and pressure being 90%. Some people like it different. I've got a friend who likes it much different to that. He likes his pressure to be like 120 yards, and he has the bias towards the front. But I don't know. I prefer that. Differentials, I tend to keep them both pretty high. Seems to work quite well. I used to keep the rear diff quite low. Sorry, not the rear diff, the deceleration quite low. But I've found that this keeps a more settled car, and you can actually apply more power through the corner with this setup. Let's go back to give them right height. Anti-roll bars are usually pretty much as they are, depending on how heavy the car is. Now this weighs 2,600. That's all right. If a car gets above like 3,000, maybe 3,200, 300, I tend to put the front more towards something like that, 30 point something, because when you brake, that's going to be the part of the car that's under stress. That's where the weight's going to go forward to. You want springs to be able to remain, you know, in a very stable position, not losing the balance of the car, not having the car wobble all over the place through a corner. You just want everything to be as stable as it possibly can, so you can apply the power, keep balanced, and get a good exit to the corner. The rear, pretty much the same. I mean, you can play with it as you tune it, as you live tune it. Camber. On the front, I tend to start at 2. On the rear, sort of more than 0.8-ish. You can go higher and lower with this as we tune it, find out what's better. Toe. Generally, I'll start like that. 0.1 on the rear. Front, leave it fine. And my caster just move slightly that way, just to keep the balance of the car. Again, so when we accelerate, the car just will be better balanced. If you just read the descriptions again, it explains it all to you. It's beautiful. Gearbox, we'll play with in a second. Yeah, okay, we'll play with the gearbox now. Right. Now I do this purely a little graph down the bottom here, and with the information it's given you. So I'm going to look for the lowest numbers here, and combining it with the best top speed. I'm not too concerned with the best top speed, to be honest. I'm not making a car I want to really be that quick. I just want a car that's going to be powerful, decent acceleration, and handle well. So the top speed really isn't an issue. I mean, 192 is by more than it. Anything above 100, 175, it's fine. So let's just play around with it, see what the result we can get. I'm currently at 9.32. Default test getting worse going that way. Oh, well, I like to have 5 gears as well in my car. I mean, this has already got 5 gears as standard, which is nice. I think 6 gears, I don't know, I find it too many. I don't know why. Obviously a car's got a hell of a lot of power, and it's going to do like 200 odd mile an hour, then you're going to need more gears probably. So in that situation, just 6 gears would be more preferable. But a standard car like this, an A-class car, you're not really going to be doing over 200 mile an hour unless you go around Le Mans or maybe an oval. So there's no real need. I'll just leave it at 5 gears. I think I'm going to go around here somewhere. 9.299 seems like the lowest mileage what we get, and it still does 100 and especially 188 mile an hour. That's fine. So let's save that. Right. Let's tune it round. Let's go Catalonia. So I've shifted up there a bit early. I was a bit nervous at the front end, so there's a couple of issues there, but you'll find as soon as you've got your spring rates right, that in general the car will handle, stable. You shouldn't have any leery moments, you shouldn't have any, calamitous accidents. If you do, then maybe you're driving wrong. The front end's a bit nervous, the rear end's a bit leery at the minute. Let's just do a lap and see how we get on. And all these tunes are done with no assist at all, so there's no ABS, there's no stability, there's no traction control. The only thing I have got, obviously as you can see, is the braking line, and I don't use simulation steering. Mainly because in races I find simulation steering to be a pain in the butt. Just because online the game's quite messy. Right, so we've 204. Average lap time from a sort of standing start from me around there is kind of 203-ish. So a bit of a scruffy lap, but yeah. Places to improve. Right, the rear end needs to be sorted out a bit. So let's. Quite a good balance on it there. But with the weight of the car being favourable to the front, so it's 53% to the front, 47% to the rear. I find that having more rebound on the front seems to help out better. Seems to just balance the car out better. So we'll start with one extra on the front, and the ratio between these two, I find, has a significant effect on the car's handling. So, say if you do, for example, if you want to try it out, if you wanted to put it like the front really far forward and the rear there, you would find that your front would be so much more sensitive, and your rear would kind of be dragged around all over the place, and it would be very unpredictable. And in the same way, you know, complete opposite, if you would put them both like that again, and then you put the rear up there, your rear end, this would be like a drifting setup. So you'd have your rear end kind of always coming out, and you could kind of control the drift, but it wouldn't be very quick and whatever. So if you want to make a drift setup, I'm assuming that's what you do. I'm not a drifter, but I'm assuming that's the way you do it, along with other little things like harder suspension, etc. Anyway, let's put this back where it was. Let's just put that up by 1. Let's also put a little extra on here. This stabilises the rear tyres slightly, but also, as you can see, it affects the acceleration at times. Let's see if we just gain a bit back. There we go. Just move that slightly. Move back to 299. I think we'll try another lap one there. Actually, I might just add a bit of downforce as well to the rear, just to try and settle it. Actually, I might as well add a bit to the front as well. Let's go. Just not too much to do that. You can see it's gone to 0.32. What's going to happen because the downforce obviously gives more drag, which means slower car. Right, instantly I can feel there's more grip on the front end, instantly, and the rear end is much more settled. So that's just a huge effect straight away, and that's just little things we've done. Now I would say when you're tuning, don't do what I've just done. Don't change 2 or 3 things at the same time, because you don't know which one of those things would have worked. You don't know, like, if those things were actually necessary in some cases. So change one thing at a time while you're tuning, and then you'll know what works and what doesn't more accurately. It's like any troubleshooting process. This feels a lot better. It's not perfect. It's nowhere near perfect. Tuning, I find getting a car perfect takes a little while. It's definitely more of a direct feel to it now. It feels like I've got more control of it. There's a little bit of understeer going on. Oh, what's poor shift? Not bad. forgot to mention I am also using manual gears in the clutch, so tends to revving it off the limiter at times. This is now a really scrappy lap. But yeah, in general the car handles quite well now. So yeah, that's the basis of what you should be doing, in my opinion. I mean, if this doesn't work for you, fair enough. There are other ways out there. Like I say, there are many other ways of doing it. But yeah, in general, tuning for me takes a while. I have a base setup like I've just shown you here. This is what I basically do to most of my cars to start out with. And then from that point onwards, the more you use them, the more you learn about them, the better it gets, or the worse it gets in some cases if it goes badly wrong. But anyway, I hope this helps some people out. Some people who perhaps new to the game or didn't know what they were doing or just couldn't find anything that worked for them. And if it did, please do drop a like, ask any questions in the comment section, much appreciated. But yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you again. Bye bye.